Chevrolet way. See and try the new Camaro at your Chevrolet dealers today.
Camaro.
Pilot Car Registry authenticated number 31 in person the following Sunday after the 2016 Camaro 6th Gen unveil at Belle Isle. We were honored guests at the unveil, and our research was recognized with General Motors. In this video, we'll be showing historical awards, published media, correspondence, and title history of the only known surviving pilot car accessory vehicle. This vehicle is extensively documented in photographic form and is recognized to be a fully restored concours candidate. Additionally, number 31 is a prime example of the confusion that surrounded the pilot prototypes before the discovery of the pilot book. Subsequently, the research followed through General Motors and this site. A few examples of these confusions that have been rectified are: being a pilot prototype slated for the sales division, the information about the test run of the IBM 360 computer had not yet been ascertained. This led to the belief that the car was assembled in the second week of September instead of the following days after June 6th in 1966. Prior to the creation of this site, an existence in an environment without research and a governing body that could coordinate all of the surviving examples. It was thought to be the very first convertible ever built and the oldest surviving example. In fact, it was the 10th convertible ever built and the 5th oldest surviving Camaro known to exist at this time. Number 31 confirms the research that all pilot prototypes slated for the sales divisions were given the latitude to be sold to the public. Number 31 showcases the inefficiencies of the shipping dates on the factory shipping logs. This is discussed at length on the pilot statistics page of this site. This vehicle was actually shipped to the South Bend Zone office in October 1966. Depending on the length of the publicity use and the executive use, this is the assertion of all sales convention cars. Number 31 also spotlights the maximum time allotted to the sales divisions prior to the sale of the car to be 6 months. 31 was sold originally, like many other factory special use vehicles, through a local dealer as a pre-done deal. And finally, number 31 exemplifies the party politics that divide the hobby in the absence of the original factory documentation. The mission statement of this site serves to rectify this in its individual small way. During the 26 years of Bruce Wheeler's ownership, this car was shown and judged extensively. In combination with a forced input cow tag and a date-coded drivetrain of January 1967, it was overlooked for its historical significance. Pilot Car Registry is in possession of multiple correspondence that is full of conjecture and misunderstanding during this time period. During our 5-year research of these cars to this date, we were able to conclusively prove these anomalies. We are in possession of factory documents, correspondence, and personal interviews that explain in great detail the inner workings of Frank Ballou's pilot prototype program. To protect the integrity of these cars, we safeguard these documents to limit the attempt of counterfeiters. That being said, the cow tags are a perfect match to our research, and the drivetrain matches the first-hand accounts of the people that were there. I'll attempt to explain these idiosyncratic anomalies without jeopardizing these safeguarded secrets. The F-Car was one of the largest pilot prototype programs instituted by Frank Ballou. At the same time these programs were taking place, Ed Cole was cutting the operation budgets of all the divisions. To keep this program on budget and to ensure enough pilot prototypes were created for their individual uses and individual testing, a decision was made to circumvent General Motors' legal department policies. The policies included that General Motors saw the sale of these engineering test cars to be a liability. These cars were flogged in Milford, were actual prototypes that hadn't made General Assembly yet, and these particular cars would be considered used and could only be sold for scrap or as rollers or on bill of sales. This happened on at least 3 cars, and I like to refer to these cars as the backdoor cars. The money derived from the sales of these cars were funneled back into the operating budgets of the pilot programs of which they came. The sale of these beat-up junkers that were flogged is a small amount, but the sale of a completely new vehicle that had been used in displays at sales conventions and General Motors photography is a completely different story. Those could be sold for new car pricing to dealers. I like to refer to these cars as sales convention cars. Thusly, this eliminated the issue that the General Motors legal department had with the sale of a used vehicle. The final issue that had to be overcome is the selling of a prototype that had not yet made General Assembly. This was eliminated by the forced inputs in the IBM 360 computer that created an illusion of later build dates that was accepted by general production. This move eliminated the final issues with the General Motors legal department and simultaneously tested the nuances of the IBM 360 computer for the future. 2 cars that were slated for publicity use made their way to the South Bend zoning office, number 27 and 31. These cars were to be driven for 6 months throughout the community and then returned to corporate. When the time came, the men were instructed at the South Bend zoning office to return the cars or to sell them. Both these cars had stacked up enough miles to be considered a used automobile, and they stayed within the agreements of the General Motors legal department regarding the liability of selling a used car. The entire drivetrain was then replaced in late April 1967. prior to the sale of number 31 to a golfing buddy of the sales team. A participating dealer working off an internal work order was commissioned to install these components. Sounds pretty simple, huh? Well, fast forward the clock to the 26-year ownership of number 31 by Bruce Wheeler. I'm sure you can imagine how wildly held this fact was received in the absence of our research. This properly date-coded entire drivetrain from 1967 was ostracized at national events for almost 30 years. This is precisely what our team is dedicated to eliminating.